I believe we are now live. Sorry for the short delay there. We are ready to kick off this Labster webinar. We're all really excited to be here with you today in these important times to share more information about what we've learned in the many years of teaching online with you and help as many teachers and students as possible. Before we jump into it, I'll quickly introduce the team here, and then Hillary will take us through the webinar itself. So I'm the co-founder and the CEO here at Labster. We also have Helen online, so she'll be joining us to talk more about the teaching methods and experience that she's made in many years of helping teachers. And we have Mark here as well, also joining us from the product side to share more about the specific COVID-19 response and relief packages that we're offering now in these important times. So really excited about this opportunity for us to help you in this webinar, and we'll make this very interactive, as Hillary will talk more about now, so that you can participate in this presentation.
Sure. So to make this as interactive, like Michael said, we are using Slido. If you have your mobile phones ready, you can go to slido.com/Labster, and we have a couple of polls coming up throughout the presentation, as well as this is where you can type in your questions, and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. So if you don't have your mobile phone, go now and grab it, and so we can interact. The webinar is going to be recorded, and we will send you the link to the recording following this webinar, so you can share with your colleagues or rewatch it should you need to. And then if you want immediate access to Labster and discuss how you can get that access, visit labster.com/COVID-19. We will be following up with the email as well with this information, so you'll have it in there. Any questions that you have, you can send to myself, Hillary@labster.com, and I will be sure to point you in the right direction.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Hillary. And yeah, as we mentioned here, we want to make this interactive. This is a great example of us also showcasing ways of doing online teaching. We always do this where we use different tools to help engage with the audience. And in this case, you should now already on your mobile app, slido.com/Labster, see a small poll. And I can see we already have people chiming in here. That's really great. Awesome. So it's working. It's also another way we ask this question just to check that it's actually working and that people can participate in this interactive format. So while we're waiting for all the questions and the answers to come in here, I want to also highlight, just as you might see in the background, we're actually in our Boston office right now. But we've also here at Labster closed down the offices. Everyone is working remote from home. The entire team is still fully operational, and we're supporting right now hundreds of teachers still. We made a rare exception today here to be here with you, but really respecting the entire COVID-19 situation here on our end, and really looking forward again to help you. So we got a lot of people here I see from around the world. Thank you so much for chiming in. Especially, of course, here in the US, the time zone we're in right now, we do support teachers and schools all over the world, but really excited for this focus today to be on the North American market. That is one of our top priorities here as well as a company. So thanks much. Let's jump right to the next one. Any thoughts here? Or no? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. I mean, obviously we're here today in extraordinary circumstances. Hopefully this is a very helpful few minutes here. We can take you through some of our best tips, best practices, what we're working on right now. But also, please know that we'll be following up very shortly afterwards to be in touch with you personally, because everyone is in a slightly different situation right now.
And important to say, beyond the team here, we're actually 130 people here at Labster, and we are here to help you. The entire team is right now engaging with a lot of people, both through our chat on our website, through email, and even one-on-one calls, so we can get on a call, and we'll share a lot more information about that also in the end of this presentation. All right, so I think with that, let's dive into the first part of this presentation, where we'll talk a little bit about how to get started with remote teaching, some basic tips and tricks. We'll also have a specific presentation on Labster and what it is, so that for those of you who are new to Labster, you can dive right into it and get the high-level perspective. We will be following up with a more in-depth demo. So if it feels a little overwhelming in the beginning, don't worry. It's actually very simple to get started with Labster in as little as 1 to 2 days. But we do want to give you the high-level overview now. Now, throughout the entire presentation, you got your mobile app. If you have any questions at all, you can type in that questions as part of the Q&A. And we have also Aliyah from our team on the line. She is moderating those questions as they're coming in. And towards the end of the presentation, we'll be focusing on the top priorities, the most upvoted questions. So you can also upvote questions from other teachers here in this webinar today. And please do so that we can also focus on the questions that are most important for you. All right, good. So we'll jump right into it. So what does the situation look like right now, and what are the things that we also here at Labster have experienced over the last 2 weeks especially? Well, this would be a typical way of teaching with Labster, where it's actually an in-classroom session, students do it together, but also as homework. So luckily we have a lot of experience in homework type exercise and use of Labster, where students use Labster as a remote learning tool. Now, what we're seeing right now is that more than 300 million students are having to miss school and start learning from home, which is obviously an incredibly difficult situation, both for teachers, parents, and students. And we have now scrambled really over the last few days here to put together a solution that we can roll out right now to all of you right away, literally starting today. And I'm really excited about that opportunity to share with you a solution to this important situation. So we asked you all also ahead of the webinar, thanks for those of you who participated, what were the information that you would be most interested in hearing about this webinar. So we focused on that as well in this webinar, and it will be especially around online learning tools, how to use Labster, and how we get rolling, get you up and set up as quickly as possible. All right. So getting started with remote teaching. So one of the things that we'll cover it briefly here, but we have an entire guideline, a long blog post that guides you through online teaching in general. And we have a lot of information that Aliyah from our team has put together for you for this situation. So there will be a whole guide around different types of LMS system, virtual classrooms, different ways of communicating effectively with your teachers, how to engage with your students, like using the Slido that we're using today, and also how to use different video conferencing tools, even down to very specific tools and how to set them up as part of your teaching. So we know there's a lot to cover there, and it'll be very different from each teacher or professor what you will need. So we put together this entire kind of catalog of best practices that we'll be sharing with you right after this webinar as well. Hillary will be following up.
So that will be included in the follow-up email, along with the recordings to this webinar and a couple other important links that we're going to cover.
That's the Labster blog as well, I think.
It is, yeah.
Exactly.
So you can see that under the resources section on labster.com.
Yeah, and please do share that as well with any of your colleagues who may find that relevant. This is a free resource made available for everyone. And yeah, good. All right, so with that, we will be jumping into a little bit about Labster specifically and what it is. So again, I'll do this very high level. We'll have a lot more resources specifically on that to get into it, but it's important just to get up to speed on it. So really, you can think of Labster as a online virtual science campus, where you and your students can engage in different science topics, where we've created hundreds of different learning experiences. And I'll talk a little bit about what a learning experience is. But you see it really as a little bit like a flight simulator for training pilots. But in this case, we can, of course, train students in important science topics. So it's a whole campus, hundreds of simulations, and we're covering more than 18 different courses now, that I will cover in this. But it's important also to explain what makes Labster different from other traditional virtual labs. Often people think of Labster as a virtual lab provider, as a traditional virtual lab, which are usually more basic 2D short experiences that covers one experiment or so. But really, at Labster, we've taken a very close look at best practices, both within pedagogical design, online learning experiences, learning sciences, as well as game design, and really worked hard with all those different disciplines to put together what we call learning experiences. So think of every Labster simulation as a learning experience that takes the student through a learning journey, where they, of course, has these very realistic simulations where we simulate even chemical reactions down to the molecular level. We can even simulate hundreds of different types of chemical reactions, so that we really create a realistic experience for the students as close as possible. It will never be 100% like a physical lab, and will never replace the physical lab 100%, but it can get very close, and we see it's definitely good enough to teach the students all the important concepts. In addition to that, in Labster, we work really hard on building engaging storylines. So essentially building storylines that helps the student understand not just the topics they're learning, but also why they're learning these topics and how can they apply the knowledge in real world settings. And we found that to be super valuable and important for the students so that they get engaged in the learning. And that typically also drives higher increases in learning outcomes. And obviously that motivation is key also for their continued learning. In addition to that, we have a lot of research. We'll cover it a little bit later with Helen's work. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. We have 16 peer-reviewed research papers around our simulations. And we have immersive animations. So this is often when we see there's a very difficult topic for the students. That's where animations can really help them understand these complex topics. So we'll cover a few examples of that as well. And then the interactive quizzes that we use in these learning experiences are really spread throughout the simulations. And this is where you as a teacher can monitor the progress of your students throughout the entire simulation. So we don't just, you can sort of relate it to a normal physical lab where we would give the students a protocol and they would go through that protocol. In certain cases, we find that the students learn how to follow that protocol, but not necessarily understand why they're doing the different steps. So in this virtual environment, we can really challenge the students in a healthy way, make sure that they understand why they're doing these different steps, not just how to do it. So those interactive quizzes are there as well, and you can get full reports directly integrated with LMS systems, which Mark will talk more about as well, so that you can follow your students' progress live. And then last but definitely not least, we apply many different pedagogies across these different simulations, depending on whether it's spatial knowledge, procedural knowledge, or conceptual knowledge that the students are learning. Helen will also cover some of that, and we have whole blog posts and white papers around this as well, so we'll keep it brief here today. One thing I want to mention, though, and I think is really interesting, is how in a virtual online learning environment, you can actually expose your students to failure-driven learning in a way that is not possible in a physical lab. That actually opens up really exciting opportunities to encourage the students to experiment and fail and reflect on those failures. And there's a lot of interesting research on a concept called productive failure that really shows how that helps students understand complex concepts much, much better. So we will have a whole other webinar on that. I could talk for hours around it, but again, keeping it brief and the high level here. This one I wanted to highlight as a proof of the quality of these online learning experiences. We often get concerns from teachers saying, well, is it really as good as a physical lab? Can it really replace a physical lab? And while we don't always recommend replacing a physical lab, there are cases where it actually can do that. And it can certainly increase the utilization of your physical lab in a way by allowing the students to practice first in this virtual environment. In the case of Arizona State University, we worked together with them to build an entirely online biology degree, a full college degree, 4 years, with virtual training simulations that completely replace the physical lab. And this is a fully accredited degree. I say this not that you have to do this right now. I say this so that you see that the quality of these learning experiences is on a really high level. We have PhDs and professors of top experience within all these different fields that ensures the highest level of quality across these learning simulations. And we also won an award for that, the Reimagine Education Award, which we are of course very proud of as well. All right, good. Here, this is a short video. It'll just show you a couple of examples of different sims. As I mentioned earlier, we have hundreds of different simulations, more than 18 courses covered. So there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of online learning content that you can give to your students now, right out of the box. The experiences are typically designed in such a way that we work with leading experts within a field, and then we design a experience that allows the students to first understand the basics of the concepts, challenge them on their understanding, and then once that's confirmed that they understand it, take them in a scenario where they get to apply that knowledge in a real world setting. So in these examples here, you'll see this is actually from our principles package, which is specifically for high school. We have similar package videos for all the different larger courses that we have. And as you can see here, they can perform experiments. In this case, actually take rocks back from Mars and perform tests on these rocks to apply some of their new skills in a really exciting, engaging concept. And here also, of course, the animations, or even let the students interact with molecules, build molecules or different reactions directly in this laboratory, which are, of course, things that we can't do in a physical lab, but things we can really give now to the students as opportunities in these virtual environments. Here's a quick shot from Mars as well. We even made up entire virtual planets, so a planet that doesn't exist in the real world, to help the students learn about ecology on other planets. So I'll go on here. This video will also be shared along with a series of other trailer videos that you can also share with your students. So now it's time to make it interactive again. So which topics are you currently teaching? You can actually enter more if you're teaching more different topics. We'd like to know what are the types of concepts or topics that you would like to know more about, and that way we can also follow up with the most relevant information for you. So grab your mobile and type in just briefly the different topics. Great, so we have a lot coming in here. So a lot of chemistry, organic chemistry. We just launched a great organic chemistry package, really high quality. I don't know if you want to say a few words.
Exactly. Yeah. I think just about 6 weeks ago, we rolled out our initial set of organic chemistry simulations. A really exciting package that initially it's a bit more focused on some of the conceptual material, and then we have more and more technique-based simulations in organic chemistry coming out very soon. But that's one of the ones we're really excited about. And I think it's worth it. I think we'll talk a little bit more about the courses later, but in terms of Labster's content, it really is ideal for those first few years, especially of science education at the university level, community colleges, state universities, all sorts of different universities, as well as high school. And then high school, this principals package, as we call it, was a major new initiative early in this past year. So high school and kind of undergraduate level is really what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Really good. Yeah, so we have that. We have microbiology, I see here as well, where we actually build an extended package that's just come out. Biology is one of the fields we're most famous for, have an incredible catalog within biology as well. Anatomy we have also from our work with Arizona State University. So really good, really great to see. Thanks so much everyone for participating. This is great. I love it. Really awesome. So we'll be following up with information. I believe we have course material for pretty much everything that I see here on the list. So that's really good news for you as well, that there will be a package pre-designed, even mapped with specific simulations, so that you can very quickly integrate it right into your course. And Helen will talk a lot more about how that process works, so that you can see the easy steps it is to go through it. All right, good. All right, thanks so much. So let's jump on here. We'll have more polls or Q&As coming up, and remember to ask questions on the Q&A, and then we'll take those questions towards the end of the presentation. This is just a quick overview for all of you. These are the courses that we do cover today. We have an incredible team that's working around the clock right now to launch more courses, and we have several right now in the pipeline. So even if you don't see a course right here, it's very likely that it will be coming out in the coming months. So stay in touch with us around that. But as I remember from the list just before, a lot of it is covered. Even in many cases, we have individual sims where there might be 3-4 sims on a topic, but it's not yet considered a full package. So you may still be able to find relevant online learning material that you can get started with. So definitely check out our catalog on that. All right, good. So now a really important question: how can we here at Labster help you get your course online? What does the process look like? And Helen, will you be taking over here? Yeah.
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. So far, so good. Really great, Michael, to hear your overview of what Labster is for everybody listening who's new to the simulations. And I just want to reassure people that we fully understand the pain point that a lot of teachers are facing just now. I myself was a lecturer before I was working for Labster, as the Labster team there knows, and we know that the process of putting some teaching online can be a hard task to do. And I was there and I did it, and I was fully convinced about the great impact it was having on my students, which is why I'm here now. So really, I want to be able to just really briefly go over how a teacher would begin to put Labster into their course, and really run you quickly through what a typical course setup might look like with Labster simulations in place, and reinforce the things that you can get from Labster, not just about the simulation and the content of it. So if we could maybe move to the next slide, please. Thanks, Alia. So Labster currently is used by hundreds of high schools and higher education institutes around the world. And from that, we have a huge knowledge base of where and how Labster works best. And we have never seen that there's one model that fits everybody, that Labster gets used really creatively on many different courses. So just now we see Labster being used as an alternative to recorded lectures on many online courses. Many of you just now might be looking at it as a replacement for lab experiences for students who can't come to campus. And it can also be used in the same way as a resource for a flipped classroom event. So maybe for the first time, you're going to be having online engagement with your students. You're going to have a focus, something to talk about, and giving them a simulation in advance of that tutorial gives you a great focus, and for students to then discuss what they've learned. And through the simulations, you can find out which questions they've struggled on as well. So it's a great resource for flipped classroom teaching. No matter how you use it, the one key thing is to drive great engagement for your students, because you can give them the best resources in the world. If they don't engage with them, they're not going to work. So engagement is absolutely key. We know from the experience of our hundreds of users that there are two main ways to achieve that. Number one is just to set them as assignments. There might not necessarily be a grade attached, but just the completion of that assignment is required for the course. And that's something that's easier to implement for online courses, that completion is necessary. In a way, that's like attendance at a lecture or a lab being necessary. It's necessary that they do that piece of learning. Secondly, the quiz scores that run through our simulations are a great way to assess a student's learning. And those quiz scores are used either formatively or as summative grades. Formatively, the quiz is instant, online, automatic feedback to your students. So a student might be wondering when they're learning online whether they're learning the right way, if they're learning the right information. These quiz scores let them know that immediately, that they are learning what you want them to learn. On the right hand side there, just really clear top line breakdown of how to implement Labster, how you would start to think about putting Labster into your course. Every simulation comes with its own list of key learning outcomes. There are usually 4 or 5. Some of them are about knowledge and understanding. Some of them are about techniques, methods and skills that you'd pick up in the lab. So look at those learning outcomes and map them onto the learning outcomes you have for your course. And then scaffold other related teaching resources round about that simulation. Those other resources might be recorded lectures, they might be online webinars, they might be tutorials, they might be other digital teaching resources, but scaffold them together in the way that the students are going to build up on their skills. Make a really clear learning path. It's clear in your head. Make sure it's very clear to the students that they're being handheld through these steps. Communicate those expectations and give them time to reflect on the learning at the end of that as well. If we could maybe move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So just a reminder then for, I'm sure, all teachers here about the importance of keeping in mind this constructive alignment model that allows students to learn. I think at this point, when everybody is thinking they're taking their traditional campus-based courses and moving online, that they're having to reinvent the whole of their course. You're really not. What you want to do is keep your learning outcomes as focused as they were beforehand. Try not to change those at all. What you are going to have to change is those teaching and learning activities, and you're probably going to have to change something about your assessment activities as well when students can't come on campus. So looking at your learning outcomes, you might have to change your assessment methods. Assessment might not be about such big on-campus papers. Assessment might become more evidence-based, more about coursework, more about smaller grades being collected as the students go through their online course. And those teaching and learning activities, obviously you're taking away contact time and replacing it with other activities such as Labster. So that constructive alignment, if we move on to the next slide, we're going to show an example of what that might look like applied to one example. So I picked an example here, which was PCR, which central dogma of molecular biology. All our biology courses at some point are going to be looking to teach PCR. So this is just one example of how that could be done. It's taking that constructive alignment and putting it into a linear learning path. So you start off with your introductory lecture, and this is where you present your learning outcomes, everything they want to know, you want them to know about PCR. And that introductory lecture is going to be a recorded lecture, I imagine. You want to give the students directed learning. The learning path must be directed so the students aren't adrift and at sea. They feel in safe hands that you're telling them if they follow these steps, they will attain those learning outcomes. So directed learning could be even just referencing them to chapters of a book or a specific paper that you want them to read. Active learning is really important because the students have to be engaged, and active learning, everybody knows, is a much deeper level of learning as well. It can't all be passive recordings. So the simulations, Labster simulations, are an amazing example of active learning. And not only is it active learning, but this is a point where you collect evidence that the students have worked, and also there's some assessment, whether it's summative or formative. We're getting the quiz scores to see how they've performed. You then expand your topic. In this example, we're imagining that you might then want to go into greater detail about primer design. You follow up with more active learning. It might be a worksheet that they do online. That worksheet might lead to a tutorial where you're discussing answers with them. Expand the topic. How can PCR be applied? Again, you can use the simulations for that. Although the simulation, I've given an example there, is about evolution, ostensibly not about PCR, but to study evolution, we're using the PCR methodology in there. So you can use the simulations as creatively as you like in this way. And then finish off again with another active learning task, which could be their final assessment or assignment for this course. It could be a written piece of work, or you could be asking them to give an online presentation to reflect on what they've learned. So just one example of that constructive alignment being put into a clear learning path for students. And this is what has to be spelt out for the students for them to follow through. Everybody will be confident that that learning will be attained. If we could have the next slide, please.
And then just for everyone, if you have questions around this, make sure you use this great opportunity to ask Helen directly. Type in your questions in the app so that we can get back to them here in the end of the presentation. We've allocated a good time to dive into some of these topics if you, the ones you find most relevant, of course. So yeah, thanks, Helen.
Yeah. And one of the things I want to add here, Michael, is I'm really aware of the teacher's pain point here. I think the students will be feeling a whole lot more relaxed about online learning than we as teachers ever were in that position. And all the resources that we give to students, I know that they will be looking for their own resources as well. So they're very used to building their own learning path, whether they're doing that consciously or not, and bringing in resources and scaffolding their learning and following it through. So the students will be quite comfortable with this. The technical aspect of implementing Labster is the next step that we have to think about. How do we know where we want to put it in the course, we know why we're putting it in the course, we know what the students are going to get from it. How do we make that happen? Well, the first thing is to reach out to us and tell us what your needs are in relation to your course. So course mapping is really giving us an idea of the simulations that you think you're going to need for your course. Speak to us if you've got no idea which simulations will meet your course, because we've got huge experience of mapping for courses in chemistry, physics, biology, hundreds of courses, hundreds of institutes. We can help you through that really quickly. And we've got the key high school curricula completely mapped out already, so that those are more or less packages that are good to go. We have got these packages good to go. All the packages can be tweaked. So if you want to make small changes, you can. So we find out what you need. And within 2 days, we're able to send you the information that you're going to need to let you and your students access our simulations. And it's going to be as easy as click and play. By the time that's installed and set up, your students are not going to be asked to go away and register, and it'll take another day. When it's set up, that's it running and it's good to go. Your students then will be able to play the simulations. They'll be able to play the simulations as often as they like. There's no limit to how often they run through a simulation, and that's really important. And all the way through their use of the simulations, they've got access to full Labster support. We've got a full set of online help pages. In our normal, I would have said normal pre-COVID use case, we give full support to teachers to do online training with the teachers and to touch base with them through the semesters that are going on. We understand that these circumstances are extreme, and to facilitate the quickest access we can, we do have a quick access package, and the support might be reduced to get you up and running as quickly as possible to move forward that way.
And then just to add, and Mark will talk more about it also, we're bringing in additional people here to be able to service you as fast as possible on this. And the entire team here also at Labster is dedicating their time to support you. Really important. Yeah,
and really important as well that we've got full online help pages for students, we've got full online help pages for teachers, and we've got full online help pages for technical requirements as well. And we've had these all the way through, so we know that these are the help pages that people need. These are not our emergency responses. They've been there all the time, and we know that's what our customers need for success. So we feel that we're entirely set up with everything that you'll need to get going as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Next slide, please. Again, I put some papers up here just to reassure confidence levels that if you feel that you're in a slight panic and clutching at resources to build something as quickly as possible, it's certainly not ideal situations to be building a course and turning it around as this quickly. But everything that Labster is based on our publications and our research and our experience. And we've got peer-reviewed papers here proving about Labster's abilities. The 5 here that I've put are the ones that I found key as a teacher. Some of them I worked on as well because I was asking questions about how Labster worked. So the first one that I had read was about Labster improving student attainment of learning outcomes, actually better than students got when they were in lectures alone. So that's absolutely key. The second paper there that I worked on was showing that Labster actually taught skills. So it's not just about knowledge and understanding. Students can pick up lab skills, and Labster does motivate students when they're using it online. The next paper there in the bottom left was evidence showing that Labster works equally well when it is used as a distance learning resource compared to on campus. Sometimes it gets used on campus in large classrooms, but we know that the quality of the resource is so high that distance learners get just the same out of it as students do on campus. And that's a really important thing for us to know when we're expecting students to learn at home. We know that Labster is a tool that really helps students who are in the middle and lower half of the class as well. So it's really key at closing that attainment gap. So the students who you might be most worried about drifting off, these are the ones who are most going to benefit from using Labster. So again, this is why engagement is key. They won't get the benefit if they're not driven to use the simulation, but when they do use the simulation, they're the ones who are really going to be pulled up by it. And the last question is that this novel, exciting, dynamic way of teaching, the students like it, it motivates them, but is that information really learned? And the last paper there is showing that something about knowledge retention from Labster. The paper did a study, I think it was a year after students had played the simulation, there was evidence that they'd retained that knowledge. So this is not a flash in the pan teaching, it's evidence-based core teaching. The students learn transferable knowledge skills, transferable practice in the labs, and you should feel absolutely confident that they're going to get what you need from it.
Yeah, and we have, at labster.com/research, there's many more research papers, so you can dive a lot more into it. We're very transparent and open about all the research we do to continuously also advance these learning experiences. They literally every year we improve the overall experience and learning outcome attainment. So yeah, great. Thanks so much, Helen.
And so now Helen touched upon the fact that we created some different access actions depending on the institution type to help expedite the process, given how everybody is rushing to get online these days. So Mark is going to cover those different options.
Yeah, and I think Labster is a lot of different things to different people, and so to some degree, this will depend on where you are coming from, what your needs are, right? Where in the world, what type of institution, what type of class. Our US office, we're based here in the Boston area. And it sometimes feels like every 5th person you meet on the street is an adjunct instructor or works in university administration or somehow involved in the world of education. Everyone that I know in my life who works in this space is being asked to move mountains right now. I think everyone's in the same position, everyone's scrambling to catch up. So that's what we're trying to do here, is really do everything that we can to make it easier to mitigate the effects of this outbreak on students, on schools, on teachers, on classes, on outcomes, all of this. So there's a couple of different temporary relief options we put together here. The first I would say is really our goal here is extending access. What's the broadest possible access we can do while still providing a reasonable level of support to as many institutions and students and teachers as possible. Michael mentioned before, we're literally pulling people off other projects at this moment to help get on the phone with you and speak to people on chat and on email and different things like that to actually get you and your course set up as quickly as possible. So the first thing I'll talk about is higher education. For universities and colleges, for individual instructors, we are able to put together a very, very deeply discounted offer, which includes for really all the Labster simulations that you need without limits in terms of usage on the simulations. Between now and August, so sort of through the end of the semester, hopefully, or through the summer, use of these simulations, a personal sort of walkthrough phone call where we're doing a consultation and offering some training on how to use Labster, how it works, what simulations would best fit in terms of different levels. This includes course mapping. So again, mapping each individual simulation to your syllabus, the things that you need to cover, It includes LMS integration if you can, Canvas, Blackboard, Desire to Learn, any of these, or potentially just setting up our own LMS access, and a slew of other kind of support, implementation, and training options that come with Labster's typical solution. In addition to the option for individual educators and courses, we're offering institution or department-wide access options, which are new. So again, this includes a kind of an open, unlimited ability to use Labster simulations as much as needed in the coming months. This includes access for our biology department, chemistry department, your entire university, and in actually increasingly in many cases, an entire network of universities, let's say state colleges or an entire state or something like that at the higher education level. So absolutely reach out to us. We'll reach out to you, but we can have these conversations and are able to provide a much more open, quick setup access for an entire institution. But those still will include the personal course, custom course setup. So for every single instructor who needs it, to some degree, holding their hand through it, doing a course mapping, being able to integrate with your LMS, whatever you use. And so that's a little bit of what we're looking at on the higher education space. We're essentially at this point looking at discounting between 30 and 75% below the cost of what it actually costs us to put it together. So doing everything we possibly can to actually open access up as much as possible.
And I want to add also that we are already now working with multiple different districts and entire state systems. So please do reach out to your CIO or CTO to just hear if we are already in conversation with them or if they're even considering this. Because in those cases, it will be a much faster integration with your LMS systems so that we can roll it out across the entire districts and states. So
yeah,
it just helps us.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think that's relevant even more so on the high school side. And so for high school, we have put together a slightly separate quick access option, which offers an element of open access without some of the full integration that we have in certain other cases where we have a full Labster solution. But definitely if you're coming from a high school, if you're a principal, it's a superintendent, anyone coming from that space, reach out to us and we have potentially a few different kind of quick access options to be able to get from a web page that Michael has set up very rapidly over the weekend.
It's been a long weekend.
Without sleeping, probably for several days. And so, and the point you made about districts or states, especially at the high school level, I think that's relevant as well here to make sure that we can get in touch. And we do still have options for those custom course setups that we offer at the higher education level. But just reach out to us, and we'll make sure that whatever is ideal for what you need right now to get you access, we can put together.
Yeah, and we'll be following up with the emails on the different options depending on your institution type and so forth. So keep an eye out for that. They should be going out this afternoon.
Very good. Great.
And for the site, maybe?
Yeah, so you can go to labster.com/COVID-19. You can fill out that form. We'll prioritize people filling out that form to follow up. But yeah, please know that our team is here and we'll be following up with everybody on the webinar.
Yeah, and I think an important part of our setup process is speaking to individual administrators or educators. But there are, you've heard reference to it already, an enormous number of resources already available on our website, from white papers, so new white paper on quickly transitioning to online, sort of in light of the COVID-19 outbreak, to recorded webinars, videos, training documents, material for students, lots of different types of material that people can access today at labster.com.
Yeah. And what we'll do, because it could also be overwhelming with that amount, so what we'll do, and Hillary will do, is curate the most relevant information for you, so that will come out in the email right after this webinar, so that you get the most relevant resources.
I'd recommend as well about our online resources to look specifically for our teacher testimonials, because we've got a whole raft of them. And if I was a teacher wanting to check out how Labster is going to work, I'd be reading those first of all to hear from my peers and colleagues about how they've used Labster and the success it's brought them.
You'll likely even find testimonials for teachers and professors in your state. So maybe there are even state-specific setup or things to be aware of that those teachers are sharing in their blog posts. So they're all on our blog as well. All right, very good. I think we're getting ready for some Q&A, right? Yeah, so we just wanted to add that picture here towards the end here. This is literally how classrooms around the world is looking like right now. I want to emphasize that we at Labster has actually been working in these types of situations for over 10 years now, and we know how to do this. We have an incredible team. We're here to help you through this transition this coming months, and we're all really excited about the opportunity to support you in these important, difficult times, and I'm confident that we can do. So please do reach out to us, ask for help. We're here to respond. And with that, oh, sorry, best practices. Yes, Helen, we talked a little about this one. Do you want to take this one as well, just as a quick wrap up on the best practices and tips to share?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think the key, if you're changing the practice here that your students are used to as well, is to give your students the confidence that you're on top of it and make them feel that their education is continuing. Keep engaged with them while they're at home. It's about that communication of expectations. If there's going to be an online tutorial, it's not optional. You expect to see them. That contact time is still really important, even though it's virtual contact time. And I can attest to that from personal experience. I now work completely remotely, but my daily contact time with my peers, even if it's a 5-10 minute conversation, is really important to feel that I'm part of that community still. Frequently assess your student learning. It's going to get broken down into much smaller, more regular assessments rather than big key papers that are happening in exam halls. Communicate frequently, but keep the communication really transparent. Don't do one-on-one emails, because if a student sends you an email about a question, it's likely that there are 50 students at home thinking the same. So keep your communication on public forums, probably your LMS. Be flexible as much as you can. Appreciate that. I know you will all appreciate the demands that are being put on students. And that everybody's in a highly stressful situation. Ensure your well-being. You're not as accountable for student well-being anymore. They're going to be back home or in apartments and things together. But it's important that the contact is relaxed and open. And if you keep the communication channels open, the students will respect the situation that you're in as well. And really embrace that online community, not just of students, but there will be online community of teachers as well. I know that even within Labster, we've got a group of our teachers who are able to communicate with each other, that we're trying to foster this peer network as well, so that you can learn from each other. So reach out to us if you want to know if there are teachers in your area or within your education system that you could benefit from speaking to. I'm sure they'd be happy to communicate with you as well.
Great. All right, good. So we will be jumping into, oh, sorry, one more.
I think almost
yeah,
record at this point, but yes, I will be following up with email, and it's going to be specific whether it's high school or higher ed institutions. So there will be very clear next steps in that email, and we will be in touch helping you through this.
Great, very good. So time for questions, and thank you, Aliyah, also online for helping moderate and curate all the questions. So if you jump to the next slide here, we have an overview of all the different questions that's come in. So really appreciate that, and also helping upvote the most relevant questions for you. There's a few of the questions I noticed which were repetitive, so Aliyah has merged those during this presentation live, so that we can cover as many of them as possible. So first one for you, Mark, how much will this cost? Do we have to purchase a whole package if we only need a few weeks worth?
Yeah, so I think that goes back to the comment I made earlier, that it does largely depend to some degree on the type of institution you're from, your course, and your unique situation. But what we are offering is extremely heavy discounts on our typical prices and our typical cost to serve and our cost to set this up. So that is absolutely top of mind for us, and that's the reason why we're trying to extend access to, in some cases, free of charge, or very, very far below what it would typically be for a semester or even a couple of months or something like that. And we are trying to set up access for a number of months, so we leave it on through the end of the semester potentially, depending on how your course schedules look like.
And this literally changes day by day these days, where we work with entire districts or state systems where, so again, if you're in touch or have contact with your CIO or CTO for the region there, do let them know that you are considering this, because that can help expedite the rollout, in which cases they would be made completely free. We would then dedicate entire teams to work with those individual states and districts to help get you online as fast as possible. All right, good. What kind of computer requirements are needed for students? That would be for me. So generally, very low-end laptops or desktop computers are required. We worked incredibly hard here at Labster over the years to optimize the experience, even for low-end Chromebooks. So it will work on nearly any laptop that your students have today. The main sort of side effect on a very older laptop will just be loading time might take a minute or two. But besides that, it will work and run on those. And we have guidance as well for the students on those minimum requirements. So yeah, so that covers that one. Do the simulations require Flash? No, we're very proud of that. Even we work on a technology called WebGL. It essentially just means that there's a 3D experience that can run directly in the browser with no installation required. So that's also why we can move your courses online so fast, because there's no need for engaging with the IT departments around first getting approval for certain installations, and the students don't need to install anything at all on their laptops. So there's also no security or data concerns in that sense. So we have a lot of experience in doing this, and no Flash will be required, enabling us to do these very rapid rollouts. If a student only has a smartphone, will this program work for them? Not yet. We are working on it. We are looking into expediting that potentially. I don't want to promise too much yet, but we do actually have prototypes right now of everything running on mobiles. And I saw a question also on iPads coming up in a little bit. Same for iPads. Mobile and iPads are currently in prototyping. We are looking at. I don't want to promise, but we will see if we can accelerate it if there is a high demand. So if you want or really need mobile and/or iPad access, please let us know in the communication with Hillary. That this allows us to prioritize the different efforts that we're doing here. So yeah, so thanks so much for that. Can a custom package be purchased based on what needs to be covered in the next few weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. So Labster, as Michael mentioned, we have over 100 simulations across almost 20 different course types and subject areas. And how we work just in a sort of normal transaction in the first place is you can pick and choose. And it may be that you're a microbiology professor and you're looking at the microbiology package. You see certain things in the general biology package or cellular molecular that are relevant to you. Absolutely, you can mix and match and customize it 100% to your needs. So that's really, if you think about it as a menu, Labster is more of a tapas style restaurant than something else where you really can customize it to whatever you need to cover and then leave everything else out.
Yeah, and I think maybe also take the next one, can Labster be used with an LMS like Canvas, Blackboard? And
yep, absolutely. So all the major LMS systems that you see, at least in the higher education space, Blackboard, Canvas, D2L, Moodle, exactly, all of these. We have a full integration with them, and we support fully. And just support articles, our support team can help get you set up. Just speak to the technical contact at your university, and we'll get the integration squared away. And then it's just a simple click for your students, very, very quick. And the grades will all flow back into the LMS system, into your gradebook, no problem. And you even have the choice in many cases to choose, do you want the students, because the students can play the simulations multiple times to try to improve their scores, potentially, if you want to allow them to do that. And you could take their best score if you want to allow them to try again, or simply their first attempt at the simulation. So there's a lot of different options in terms of the integration and the grading and the tracking of student results side.
Yeah, so and again, that's a very user-friendly teacher dashboard that we made available that actually helps you reduce your workload. So while there might seem like an overwhelming time right now with moving everything online, we're very confident that it will help also over time reduce your workload very rapidly. So
and you can track student progress through the simulations as well. It's not simply just their grades or their scores, but who has or hasn't completed the assignments and where they stand.
Yeah, and then it also brings in interesting opportunities such as so you can imagine you give the students a specific lab exercise to perform. Then after that, you can actually see a report of where were the students struggling the most, what were the areas within these virtual simulations that were the most difficult, so that you can customize your follow-up online lectures to address those specific points. So it really helps you also tailor the experience to your students in a new way, which is very powerful as well. Yeah.
I think as well, just to chip in there, when you're looking at your teacher dashboard, you see that on an individual student by student basis, so that when you're having communication with a particular student, it will feel like very personalized communication, that you know what they're doing. It's not just a class-wide picture, and that's key for online teaching.
Yeah, really, again, a good example of the power of these online or virtual training experiences, which gathers insights for you as a teacher that you can improve your teaching with, and really helps the students a lot as well at the same time. All right, is the cost paid by the college, university, or by the students? Good question. Yeah.
Either.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
I think it depends on your setup. It's also right now things are also changing. We're finding right? In some cases, we've been having conversations with universities or teachers or departments where typically the students are the ones who purchase course materials, but now the model has shifted because we're moving rapidly to try to extend access. So absolutely either of them are on the table. We do both all over the world with all different types of institutions.
Yeah, so with the student pay, it essentially just, so it will be basically free to roll it out, and then the first time the students access any of the simulations, they will just pay there or with a voucher from the bookstores. So we've done this in many, many cases as well. Yeah. Are there opportunities to try the simulations before we buy the package? I should mention, even there would of course be at the heavily discounted prices that we currently offer as part of this rollout. So just make that clear. We're doing everything we possibly can to support everyone. Are there opportunities to try the simulations for ourselves before we buy? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So once again, I'll be sending the link, but if you go to labster.com/COVID-19, fill out that form, we will put you in touch with somebody, especially if you haven't used a simulation before. It helps to walk through it with somebody just so you know the nuances. And then from there, after that conversation, they can set you up with access to the simulations to test them out.
Yeah, and we have something we call the faculty resources page, and it's essentially it's the keys to the kingdom. It allows you to look at every single simulation, how they're categorized. You can learn about, see the learning objectives. You can read the quiz questions, the theory material. You can watch a screencast. You can play the entire simulation yourself. Everything you would possibly want to do to be able to make a decision about what you need for your course right now.
Yeah, so it's a great way also before, or as you give a specific simulation in a week to the students, you can prepare very easily using that material, so you know everything that the students are going through. There's even a video screencast that walks you through the whole simulation. Yeah. All right, good. These are great questions. Thanks so much, everyone. It's really good. Where can I find more information about the courses offered? Yes. You will be sending something?
Yeah, so I can send that to you. I'll include a link to our simulations library that is listed on. You can go to labster.com right now, and there's the simulation tab where you can see all of the different content that we have to offer, but I'll also put that in the follow-up.
There's a little drop down on that simulations page where you can choose the course packages, and it immediately shows you all the relevant simulations for you. Yeah.
But again, I think it is worth also having a conversation and trying to get that next step of access where you can really see kind of behind the curtain a little bit, and you get a lot more information once we able to set that up.
Yeah, again, and as Helen outlined in her presentation, that the easiest way for you right now is to send us your course syllabus or course outline. Then we will do the mapping for it. We'll get back to you with exactly like this is what we recommend you do. We've done this hundreds and hundreds of times, if not thousands by this time. So please do that. We're here to help you in that process. No problem. Yeah. This looks great. I am supporting a course with hundreds of students who need to be online next week. How fast can we get started?
I think a couple of days at the most, right? Yeah. Very quickly, in a day or two, we can get you set up. Yeah. So
we can do, if it's really urgent, we do a one-day turnaround. We can do that as well. So we by now, and this is what we worked really hard on over the last 1 to 2 weeks, is to automate all these onboarding processes and so forth to really allow these type of very rapid online movements. Yeah, great. Is there a dedicated help technician that students can contact with problems, or do they not just contact a help desk number or email? Yes, so on help.labster.com, and the students, as they play a simulation, there's a sidebar where there's a help center, and they can go in there and ask the questions. This is very important to not overwhelm you as a teacher with questions from the students, especially technical ones. We help them through that, and even if there are specific syllabus or content related questions, we sometimes also guide them towards the relevant theory pages. So as partner with us, we also have student support that guides you through your students through some of these simulations, or all of the simulations. Yeah. Does Helen want to come back teach for us? So knowledgeable. Yes. So Helen, you already have other webinars hosted, right? And I think those would be great to share. And I think probably in a few days or a week, if there's demand, we could set up a specific webinar focused on Q&A, where people can ask questions in the same format, really focused on helping do best practices in the online teaching.
Yeah, definitely. And my response to that is that working with Labster lets me teach with so many people, and anybody who's coming on to Labster now, I'd be delighted to teach with them and help them through this, get everybody up and running.
Yeah, really on. Thanks so much again, Helen, for everything you're doing. And so we will follow up with that, with the webinars that Helen has hosted earlier as well. Can we include those? Great, very good.
And they're all online again.
They're all
Labster.com. Under the resources section on Labster.com is extremely extensive. We've done a number of webinars and white papers and testimonials and blog posts. That's all under that tab. So you can kind of go and pick and choose what's relevant for you.
Yes. All right, so I am coordinating 6 lab sections of the same course. What options are available to streamline this arrangement?
I mean, I think that we can organize all of them at once, right? If it's 6 syllabi potentially, that may or may not be different. We can do the mapping all at once if we have those initially in advance. The setups can be done all at once as well, right? So it's 6 separate licenses is how we would set it up typically. And then you can simply almost copy and paste them if it is the identical course or identical syllabus. Otherwise, we can go through each of them when you're speaking with the regional director.
And on your teacher dashboard, you would essentially just choose the specific lab section, and you'll be able to see the students just from that one. So it filters automatically out as well.
And I will take this one. What's the next step after this webinar? We want to get set up. So again, it's slightly different in access options depending on high school or higher ed. So I will be sending a specific email depending on those institution types with really clear next steps of how to get set up, and we will be in touch immediately.
Very good. And I think we are over time. Let's take there's just 3 more. Let's maybe quickly go through those for those of you who have to jump off. I fully appreciate it. But I see we have still hundreds of people here, so that's good. Do you have anything for AP Chemistry?
Yes. That's it. No, I mean, so I mentioned the principles packages that we launched a couple of months ago. One of them is chemistry, right? So it is the core topics that let's say in particular a junior, especially a senior in high school would need to cover. And a lot of it will push them as well. So it is, I think, ideal for AP Chemistry. And you can certainly also pull things from the college level chemistry content. So,
Is it realistic that this can be rolled out to multiple campuses for larger institutions? And yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what we were talking about before is that we are pulling as many people in internally as we can to support our lovely customer support team to get everything set up as quickly as possible. So yes, we'll get it done.
And actually, even for when we do it for multiple campuses, if you use the same LMS across those, it makes it a lot faster and easier for us to roll out because we typically just do one rollout across all. So we're working now with multiple different state systems to do this rollout across all their campuses. So please do reach out to us because the earlier we can get that set up, then we don't have to first implement individual institutions and then do the statewide rollout. So yeah.
And if you do have timelines in mind, I think that's important to introduce into the conversation early, right? Just so we have it in the back of our minds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Do you have any sims or courses for graduate level nursing courses?
I mean, I think we have a fair amount of content for typical courses that you may take a nursing program like general organic and biological chemistry, for example. We have some anatomy content, we have plenty of biology content. We don't have many nursing focused simulations, but there's physiology content. There's a lot that would be relevant depending on the course that you're looking at in particular. So.
Our genetics modules and the microbiology packages have been picked up really heavily by nursing courses actually. So specific subjects within that, Yeah,
very good. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. We kept it exactly at 1 hour if we count in the short delay in the beginning. So really appreciate it. I hope you guys got a lot of valuable insights and information out of this course. And as I hope you can feel now, we are here to help you and support you through this important, difficult times. We are doing everything we can around the clock to continuously help teachers move online. Do reach out to us. Hillary will follow up with more information. Let us know if you would like a one-on-one call after this so we can guide you through the entire syllabus mapping and course mapping. We have done it many times before and we can give you very clear, specific answers to your needs and your course. So we're really happy to do that as well. Yeah, I think then with that, we have covered everything in this presentation. So yeah, thanks much. Thanks, Helen, also for joining in, Leah and Mark and Hillary. Really appreciate it. And for everyone here at Labster who's working around the clock right now to make sure we can support all of you as best possible. Really appreciate it and super proud also of the entire Labster team. So thank you so much, everyone. And with that, let's wrap up the webinar.